What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, Shadow Annihilape is the pick that I want to showcase. This Pokemon is one of, if not the only good remaining counter user left in the game, but it's not counter that makes this Pokemon good, it's Rage Fist. Rage Fist is an extremely cheap Ghost-type charge move that does a lot of damage and always raises your attack every time you throw it, which makes it a force to be reckoned with. So let's get into the battles and see what this Pokemon can do. Let's get right on into it. Shadow Annihilape as our lead up against a Talonflame. Very bad lead matchup. We know that flying is good into fighting-type Pokemon, but I do have two picks with water-type pressure in the backline. I'm going to safe swap my Shadow Drapion instantly, and they must not have a great answer to us because they do stand for a second, and this Aqua Tail will end up drawing the first shield from the Talonflame. Our opponent brings in an Auroras here, which while they do resist my Poison-type fast move pressure, we have a shield advantage, and we outpace them extremely heavily to moves. So I think at this point, this is going to be a good matchup for us. I think as well, though, we survive a Weather Ball from this range. I can no-shield unless they Meteor Beam us here. They don't knock us out, but honestly, very wise play by our opponent. They do go for the big move. I can still get a farm down, but man, that is such a big call by them. I could have shielded up that move and had so much energy on my Shadow Drapion, but because we have been knocked out here, Shadow Annihilape is going to have to pick up the slack. In comes the Talonflame once again. We know that we have chipped him down just a little bit with Poison Sting damage, and while Rage Fist is only neutral, it's a Shadow Annihilape. It does almost half of their remaining HP. Counter at this point, while it is resisted damage, might still be enough to knock them out. I think we can two-shield fast move them all the way down, Fly coming through against us. Thankfully, not a Flame Charge. If they did have Flame Charge, then their fast move pressure would do just a little bit more damage, but I think at this point, just double shield my Annihilape and hope that in the back, there's something weak to fighting type damage here that we can get a massive amount of damage into. And there it is, a Furret, a Pokemon which does not want to take our boosted counters. Ice Punch as well, likely going to draw a shield here from our opponent. I'm going to get one more counter off against him before I end up swapping out to Lapras. Just guarantee they're in range where we can knock him out with a single charge move here with our water type Pokemon. Now, Furret is a good answer to Lapras normally, but in the Zero Shield matchup, it's not that good for Furret, mainly because these Sparkling Arias and Sideways do add up, and Trailblaze is non-stab. They need to ramp up to do any sort of damage. We can knock him out here with a Psywave, take out that Furret, and now Talon has very little HP. GG to our opponent. All right, next match, an Azumarill in the lead. A bit of a tricky lead matchup. We do have two Pokemon in the backline, once again, that are decent into this pick, and they bring in a Clodsire of all things. This Pokemon is by no means an answer to a Shadow Drapion on even energy, and especially not down energy like they are in this match. They're using Poison Sting as their fast move as well as Earthquake for their charge moves, but they might be able to have either Sludge Bomb or Stone Edge as their bait moves, so it really depends on what they want to throw here. I can go for the no shield, expecting a bait once again. Our Shadow Drapion, for the second time today, gets one shot. I guess I should shield that Pokemon a little bit more, but I know that Shadow Annihilape is still going to be in a decent spot. This Pokemon with counter damage can actually farm all the way down against this Poison-type Pokemon before they can get to two charge moves against us, which means now we get a lot of energy against the Azumarill, or if they swap it back in, potentially, I can just make them go for energy against my Lapras, keep the energy on my Annihilape for the backline, and potentially still be in a good spot in this match. They do have the Clodsire in the backline as a catch attempt, but I think at this point, our Shadow Annihilape with so much energy, as well as our Lapras, which can neutralize this Azumarill, is going to make it so Annihilape in the backline should be able to put in some work. In comes another player off. This will end up putting us into the red, but we cannot get fast move farm down by this Pokemon, not just yet. We know Azumarill is going to have very little fast move pressure into opposing water types. First Sparkling's going to be thrown, second one thrown very shortly after. Really just throwing this move to desync the switch clocks or to get it so I can swap once again here in just a second. We can swap, but they swap at the same time into their own Annihilape. Now, this is not that bad of a matchup for me. I have so much energy. In fact, I'm already at two charge moves here, which means there's no way we can lose this mirror match. Not only that, but they shield that first Rage Fist. They are the Shadow Annihilape, so that would basically one-shot them in the first place, and after the boost, definitely it will be a one-shot. At this point, all I need to do is be very careful with my energy management. Know that if I have enough energy to go for Rage Fist against the Azu before they reach an Ice Beam, we should be able to win this game. They do have Clodsire as well as a catch opportunity in the backline, which is always something to keep in mind. Rage Fist, though, is going to come through, knock out their Shadow Annihilape. We are triple boosted, I think, at this point. In comes the Azumarill here. I'm going to go for the fast pressure. I know at this point they're going to try to catch at some point. We farm all the way down against the Clodsire, and we have an Ice Punch ready to go against the Azumarill. At this point, why not? We know Azumarill resists this move, but we're triple boosted. Our opponent top left. GG's to them. All right, next game. Shadow Annihilape against Tinkaton. Honestly, a pretty neutral matchup here. We know they do have super effective Fairy-type damage against our Fighting-type Pokemon, but look at how much damage we're doing with our fast moves as well. They also just go straight for a Bulldoze, which while that can get a defense drop against us, it's not going to one-shot us like a Play-Rough would, but they do get that 50-50 chance of that defense drop, which is a little bit bad for the prospects of sweeping the Shadow Annihilape. In comes the Rage Fist. Our opponent is going to take the move. Actually, no, they're going to shield that attack up, which was kind of interesting to me. I'm surprised they would go for that, saying that at this point, I can probably come in with my Lapras, neutralize this pick, and then use my Shadow Drapion in the backline once this Tinkaton's out of the way as a good sweeper. Tink is staying in for just a second Into our Lapras. I'm going to go instantly for the Sparkling Aria, knowing that I do want to get this damage off against them if we can. Sparkling being thrown, it does not quite knock them out here, and they save the energy. They come in with their own Lapras, which honestly, at this point, I'm thinking this might be a bait out. They do want me to swap, right? They must have a Pokemon in the backline that my Lapras is going to be weak to. Might as well stay in this neutral matchup here, unless they're on Skull Bash. Luckily, they are just on Sparkling Aria, and I think this is going to be my best matchup remaining for my Lapras. I'm still hoping that in the backline is going to be something weak to our Shadow Drapion. I know potentially a Pokemon like Jumpluff could be back there taking a second to throw this charge move, but it looks like we do get that move off, and now a second Sparkling Aria will be thrown. Neither of us do have Skull Bash, so this matchup is going to take quite a while to play out here. I know I can survive their next move, but they might also be able to survive my next move, and they're very close to two Sparkling Arias of their own. In comes their charge move. It does come close to knocking us out, but we have the next one on CMP, it actually looks like here. Meaning down goes their Lapras, and Shadow Drapion still has a shield advantage to potentially win this game. Lapras is so low on HP at this point, but man, I know that Tinkaton does have a move. There's a chance they can bring it back in and get a permanent debuff against us, although I guess there's also a chance they can just come in Dugong here and get a permanent debuff this way. We know they can go for Icy Winds at this point. They have energy on their Tinkaton. In fact, I think they have a full-on player offloaded, which at this point could be enough to knock us out. And man, I can't even two-shot them with Crunches if they start debuffing me here. Crunch number 1 is not even going to get a debuff for us, which means at this point, Shadow Drapion has such an uphill battle to win this game. I think I have to no-shield an Icy Wind to have any chance here, but even if I no-shield this, I'm just in fast move farm down range. I don't know if Shadow Drapion has enough HP remaining to win this match. Crunch is going to come through. Our opponent will end up going for the shield on that attack. I'm going to go for another Crunch here in just a second. This will knock out at this point, but I don't know if I have the HP remaining to knock out both that Tinkaton as well as the Lapras. I'm going to try to farm down the Tinkaton. Unfortunately, they survive on 1 HP. If I got that farm down, I could have won the game, but GG there to our opponent. All right, next game, Gastradon in the lead into our Shadow Annihilape. Now, this matchup is actually pretty good for Annihilape. Normally, Mud Slappers are a little bit tricky to take down. Claydol resists fighting type damage. Marowak is so spammy, but this Gastrodon, while they do have Body Slam, which is a cheap move, that is not going to do any damage to us here, but they're still going to be very tempted to go for the bait. I'm going to call yet another bait today. Can I call one right for once in my life? Finally, we do call the proper bait here, which means now we are going to have Switch and Shield advantage, or potentially both shields down from this Gastrodon. In comes the charge move. This Rage Fist will get the second shield actually from this Gastro. They fully farm us down, but Lapras should be able to come in here, Psywave this Pokemon down, or I guess just see what's about to come in. Now, this is a bit of a core breaker now that my fighting type Pokemon is out of the way. This Dunsparce won't really want to take this Ice Beam, but man, at this point, Shadow Drapion is going to have to worry about that Gastrodon with a ton of energy in the backline. I think, though, no shielding my Lapras could be a good play, over farming with my Shadow Drapion after this charge move, and then making sure I always have an Aqua Tail ready to go just in case that Gastrodon does come back in. Now, we do have energy on our Lapras. We do have 2 shields to our name as well. As long as they don't get to 2 drill runs against us here, we can save a shield for either that Gastrodon or whatever might be in the back. Crunch is going to end up landing into this Dunsparce, and at this point, after the damage I got with my Lapras, I think this will knock them out. I need to watch for that corner there, see what's going to come in. We see the water and ground type instantly. We go for the Aqua Tail, and luckily no catch from our opponent. This is going to be a lot of energy down the drain for our opponent here, and Bastiodon as their final Pokemon. Are you joking me? This is a very interesting team. I guess Gastrodon, Basti, Dunsparce. That feels like such an RPS lineup, but I think at this point we're in a very good position to win this game. Aqua Tail being thrown once again. Looks like I'll probably need 4 charge moves to knock this out. Maybe 5 if Poison Stings are not enough fast move pressure. No, 4 should do it here, which means at this point, our Shadow Drapion is going to be just a little bit too oppressive for them to take down. I also know I have energy on Lapras, so and I don't want to risk that they farm me down here and somehow win the game with Basti getting to 2 charge moves against Lapras, so might as well just swap out, go for the Sparkling Aria, and this should close out the endgame. In comes the charge move, knocks out the Bastiodon. GG there to our opponent. Very interesting team, I guess. All right, next game, Shadow Annihilape into Shadow Drapion. Honestly, a pretty good lead matchup, right? I resist their fast move pressure. My fast move pressure does so much to them, and because I'm able to 2-shield through them and ramp up my attack stat, generally I do like this matchup. Aqua Tail bait comes through, and they come in with an Azumarill of all things, a Pokemon that we don't have a dedicated answer for, but we do have a lot of neutral play with our Lapras. I'm going to build up a lot of energy on Shadow Annihilape because I feel like they did stay in that lead matchup for quite some time. There's a good chance they stayed in for so long there because they are weak to our Annihilape in the backline, and it feels like energy on Annihilape is going to be just a bit more important than switch advantage in this match. In comes the second player up here from this Azumarill. They do want to throw it before I can potentially get a Skull Bash off. I am running Ice Beam mainly for Jumpluff. I'm leading a Pokemon weak to flying type damage. I need the ice type damage in the backline, in my opinion. But I mean, if I did have Skull Bash here, that would be so much more helpful. Sparkling Aria being thrown into the Azumarill once again. This isn't going to do too much damage, but I can swap out. But our opponent, they have a very similar idea. They swap out at the same time into a Superior. Now, we do have a lot of energy here, but I would have definitely preferred coming in Shadow Drapion in this matchup, but I do think at this point Shadow Annihilape will get to 3 Ice Punches before getting completely knocked out by the Superior. In comes our first Aerial Ace, in comes our second Ice Punch. We're almost at the next one. In fact, I do think we have back-to-back here, which means we can likely CMP the Superior and either knock them out or come very close to it. They go for the No Shield, and they do survive on what looks like 1 HP. A little bit tragic here, but I think we can still knock them out either through the shield or with just the raw damage if they do end up letting it go. Would have been a risky shield KO, actually. I don't know if they had 1 or 2 HP, but we do save a Rage Fist, come in with our Lapras, and now we see that Shadow Drapion once again come in. This is not a bad spot to be in. I have that Rage Fist loaded. I can knock out the Azumarill. They likely have to shield the Sparkling Aria, and my Shadow Drapion is going to be a bit tricky for my backline here. I do know that I can go for these 2 Aqua Tails, or rather just 1 Aqua Tail. They need 3 Aqua Tails to knock me out, so he should be in a very good spot. Aqua Tail number 1 comes through, we survive it. Aqua Tail number 2 going to be thrown, but we can see how much damage that first one did. Second one has no chance to knock us out, and we also have energy on our Annihilape. They actually went for Crunch to potentially get a debuff, maybe to try to farm us down with bubble damage, but it's not going to matter. Our Poison Stinks are still super effective into them. In fact, we can either outpace them or force them to throw energy and potentially go for a counter down now with our Shadow Annihilape. Ice Beam knocks us out, but Annihilape, all it needs is 1 more fast move to knock out this Azumarill. GG there to our opponent. Next game, a Jumpluff in the lead, a very bad lead matchup, but we do have 2 Pokemon that are very decent into this matchup later on, so I'm going to go for my Shadow Drapion safe swap, and we are met by a Shadow Quagsire. Not the best spot to be in, but it is playable here. I know that I can win either the 0 shield matchup or the 2 shield matchup, depending on how they play it out. If they end up going for a Stone Edge to win the zeros and I shield that move up properly, then I do, in fact, win the 2 shield matchup. But if they bait us here with Aqua Tail, they always win the 2 shield. So I'm going to no shield this, knowing that they likely are going to play for that 2 shield scenario, and we are able to get that shield advantage. That said, they get a lot of energy on this Shadow Quagsire, and I know Annihilape is still in such a tricky spot against that Jumpluff later on this game. I'm going to tank an Aqua Tail, but the second one would knock me out, and it does look like they will reach another one before I can farm them all the way down. Go for a catch, though, on Lapras, knowing that they're basically forced into throwing that charge move there, or else they're going to risk getting completely farmed down. This move does a lot less to us, but in comes a Blastoise in the backline. I do love Blastoise, but it's not a Pokemon that I want to see right now, especially when I don't have Skull Bash on my own Lapras. In comes a Sparkling Aria, though, before a Skull Bash from them will be able to boost their defense stat, potentially giving us a little bit of play right now, but I don't know even if an Ice Punch is enough to knock out that Jumpluff. I'm just investing, though, in the fact that I think our Shadow Annihilape can get to 2 Ice Punches before that Jumpluff can get to 2 Aerial Aces, or at least 3. I think they're going to get to a charge move here with the Blastoise, and then I want to be able to outpace that Jumpluff to 2 more Aerial Aces, which I think I can, but this is going to be so close. In comes the Hydro Cannon. It does draw a shield, and that Jumpluff does come back in. I go for the Ice Punch, but honestly, I think I probably should have gone for a Rage Fist bait here, because if they shield this move up, then I can guarantee the next Ice Punch would be enough to knock out, but I go for the Ice Punch. They do shield, and because of that, should have baited. I don't think this Ice Punch is enough damage, but if I got the attack boost from the baited Rage Fist, there is a chance I could have won this game. Ice Punch is going to come through. I guess we'll see how much damage it's going to do here, but it's a non-Shadow Jumpluff. They survive the attack. I can't swap out, and now we're going to go down. Unfortunately, Annihilape, not enough damage. I should have gone for that bait once again. I mean, it's, I think, a lose condition, though, for our opponent to just shield that first move up anyway, but I guess that's how it goes. GG there to them. Next game here, wow, Shadow Nidoqueen, either a blast from the past or a trainer trying to try out a Pokemon before it gets buffed here. Shadow Nidoqueen potentially coming back next season with the Poison Sting addition to its moveset. It's going to be a lot more spammy, but a lot less fast move pressure, so I have no idea if it's actually going to be a buff or not, but I know Shadow Nidoqueen in this scenario is a little bit less comfortable than you might expect. My fast move pressure is resisted, same with theirs, but we call their resisted charge move, whereas mine are going to be neutral. We got a shield from that first move, and now the second one thrown on either CMP, or maybe they overfarm to try to farm us down. Yeah, they're trying to farm us down here, but that is fine. Shadow Drapion now can come in, go for an Aqua Tail here in just a second, and knock out the Shadow Nidoqueen. I'm going to shield. It's likely a bait, but I mean, at this point, I don't want to get one shot. Wow, this trainer maybe is just trying out new Pokemon at this point, because I know Samurott as well with the Fury Cutter buff is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the new season, but 1 Crunch, not quite enough damage here to get the knockout. I might be playing in the new season already. No Crunch debuff here. We know Crunch is going to have a lowered chance to get those debuffs in that new season update. But I mean, at this point, Shadow Drapion doesn't even need the debuff. We just go for the Aqua Tail here, knock out the Samurott, and potentially have energy for that Nidoqueen if it does come back in. They, though, bring in a Jumpluff, and at this point, I know this game should be in the bag, but there is still a win condition for them if I do let an Energy Ball through, if they do run that move, and then they land damage with their Nidoqueen. That could be a little bit uncomfortable. They do have Energy Ball. They come back in, though, with that Nidoqueen, and I'm pretty sure at this point, I can just go for an Ice Beam into that Jumpluff before they can knock us out with an Aerial Ace. They won't be able to reach for a full-on Energy Ball here. They do reach an Aerialist, which will put us pretty low, but I think Lapras will be bulky enough to survive this, reach the super effective charge move, and one-shot the rest of the HP on this Shadow, or this non-Shadow, that is Jumpluff. Ice Beam coming through, it knocks out the Jumpluff. GG to our opponent. All right, next game, we're going to see Shadow Ape once again into the Shadow Drapion lead. We've seen this lead earlier today, but our opponents haven't really played out the matchup. A lot of the time, they go for chip and dip here. Let's see if our opponent will stay in or if they're going to swap out after throwing a charge move. Once again, I'm going to shield. Even if it's an Aqua Tail bait, it doesn't really matter. The two-shield matchup plays out all the same, and honestly, if they do go for Aqua Tail, they don't have a chance to debuff my defense stat, which is also pretty good. They're actually staying in here, letting me Rage Fist on CMP with the next Crunch, which means this will likely draw a shield, or I guess get a knockout with all of that energy down the drain for the Shadow Drapion. In comes a Jumpluff, actually. I'm going to get a shield from them potentially with this Ice Punch, and then swap out Preserve my Shadow Annihilape for the backline. I have two answers. Wow, they just let that go as well. That's a boosted Ice Punch. I guess that also doesn't quite one-shot here, but now we have an Aqua Tail ready to go into this Jumpluff. They kind of have to shield something at this point. It's kind of a shame they had to shield an Aqua Tail. They no-shielded a +1 Ice Punch, but at this point, they're not getting another charge with this game. I'm going to shield the Acrobatics, farm them all the way down, and see what they come in with. One of my favorite Pokemon here this season, a Blastoise, ends up coming into the battle, and while this Pokemon is not ideal for my Lapras in the backline, I think we can still survive a Hydro Cannon from this range, and potentially either get to another charge move, or be able to knock them out just with faster pressure on my Shadow Annihilape. They do go for a Hydro Cannon. I think a Skull Bash likely would have been the play there, just to guarantee that they could one-shot us, but I now get to another Crunch. I think I can swap in my Shadow Annihilape, force even more energy from our opponent. No debuff once again. I guess our Shadow Drapion really is playing in the new season at this point, but while the Hydro Cannon will likely knock us out, our Lapras in the backline can close out this endgame. Actually just barely survived that move, but that's fine. Sidewave damage is all we need to knock out the Jumpluff as well as the Blastoise. GG here to our opponent. They don't have any moves that can one-shot us. They realize that, and they end up top lifting. All right, next game, Shadow Annihilape into a Unnovan Stunfisk. Bit of an interesting lead. I was going to say it's a neutral matchup, but they actually instantly swap out to a Talonflame, either meaning that they do have a better answer in the backline to our Shadow Annihilape, or they want to bait something out in the back, and we'll see what that's going to be. Aqua Tail coming through, it does put them deep into the yellow after a couple more Poison Stings are actually in the red, potentially in farm down range. Now, while I don't necessarily need Switch saying Shadow Annihilape is not a hard answer to that Ufisk, I do know that if I am able to win this matchup, I can actually get a lot of Aqua Tails off into that Unnovan Stunfisk later on this game. Aqua Tail comes through, our opponent does shield, so I think at this point, just go for the double shield farm down, use this energy, go for Aqua Tails against that ground type Pokemon, and trip them down as much as we can. They actually very wisely go for a Brave Bird there, which means I get a few less Poison Stings of farm. It's not really going to matter, I don't think, because I will still be able to go for 2 Aqua Tails before a single Mud Bomb will be reached. And yeah, you can see they don't quite two-shot here, but I think I can reach a third before they get the farm down against us. Aqua Tail coming through, our opponent likely will let this go at this point. I think they're going to be content to trying to sweep with whatever they have in the back line, but honestly, I don't know what they could have in the back that would pose that big of a threat. Maybe like a Shadow Typhlosion, that is. It could be kind of bad if they do end up having that, but we'll see what they end up coming in with. They actually have a Jumpluff. I was going to instantly swap here, but I had a thought, you know, I don't necessarily need as much energy on my Shadow Annihilape anymore. Might as well go for this Ice Punch. Our opponent goes for a CMP against us, which is a very smart play, but I think at this point I can go for a Lapras swap in, go for an Ice Beam against this Pokemon. We can actually survive that move pretty comfortably. Aerialist putting us down into the yellow, but we still have a quarter of our Annihilape left over. They need a charge move to knock us out with that Unnovan Stunfisk. In comes a charge move, likely an Acrobatics, maybe an Energy Ball. Actually, a lot of Energy Ball Jumpluffs today. Kind of an interesting thing to see here. I want to throw the move, though, before they can land an Aerial Ace into us. I don't want to be in farm down range to make it so that Ufisk can just go for a ton of energy into our Annihilape. They actually instantly throw a charge move here. I think they needed to overfarm by 1, maybe 2 to have any chance. They did want to throw before my Sparkling Aria, but by not overfarming at all, I can easily farm them down without even a chance of them reaching another charge move. GG there to our opponent. I guess we'll take the win there in the end. Our next game, Shadow Drapion. Once again, a lead matchup we've seen a couple times today. Our opponent is staying in this matchup, which, I mean, it seems that is the common play right now. Go for a chip and dip, get a guaranteed shield advantage, and then potentially come in with a hard answer in the backline. Our opponent swaps out to a Mandibuzz. It's only a Snarl Mandibuzz, though. If they had Air Slash, it would be a bit more awkward for both my Shadow Drapion and my Shadow Annihilape, but they have very little fast food pressure here with Snarl. I can land the super effective Ice Punch and go into my Shadow Drapion. Now, while Aerial Ace is a neutral charge move here, it's not the most efficient attack in the game. I can survive 1, maybe 2 pretty comfortably. The third will come close to knocking us out after the Snarl damage will slowly start adding up. And the thing is, though, I do have the shield deficit, but I don't think a Mandibuzz is really going to want to start shielding Aqua Tails from a Shadow Drapion, so I think I can keep Switch this game, but it will really depend on what my opponent wants to do. Aqua Tail being thrown, our opponent likely will go for the no-shield on the first, and they go for a catch attempt here. A good play, but I mean, at this point, I can still throw these Aqua Tails into the Shadow Drapion. I'm fine getting this Pokemon out of the way as well. Mandibuzz has been very much shipped down, and in comes a catch on the Aqua Tail with our Lapras. We have energy on our Annihilape, energy as well on our Shadow Drapion, and I think because we have some energy on Lapras too, we're in a pretty good spot in this game. They have Galarian Corsola though in the backline, not a Pokemon that Lapras necessarily beats, but it's also not as bad as you might expect. Power Gem is super effective into us, but Psywaves, for some reason, they add up quite a bit against this Galarian Corsola, right? You're seeing sizable damage into this very bulky pick, which means I think maybe I can actually no-shield this, survive the attack, go for a Sparkling Aria here in just a second, either get a shield or potentially put them into fast move farm down range. With that said, we don't actually have that much fast move pressure in the back, so I would expect to see a shield here. Yeah, we go for the Aqua Tail instantly into the Mandibuzz. They did have some energy left over, needed to snipe them down before they can reach that Aerial Ace, and as long as I do reach the final shield or reach the crunch before they knock us out, we should be able to get the final shield, and then go for the Rage Fist with our Shadow Annihilape, knocking out the Galarian Corsola. Crunch coming through, likely going to get a shield here, and they will get a full farm down. A little bit scary. They have a lot of energy, but I don't think they're at back-to-back Nightshades just yet. I will wait down my switch clock just to give us any chance at a catch-win condition, but we actually already have the move loaded up right now. I think they're one Astonish away from another Nightshade, so even if we didn't have the move, we still had a bit of leeway, but we have the Nightshade, or rather the Rage Fist ready to go. This will knock them out and take us the win here in this match. GG to our opponent. So yeah, with that, we are able to close out the day with a nice little 4-1 set. 3300s reached once again here. A very nice climb for us with this Shadow Annihilape team. Honestly, one of the most meta teams I've ran this season. Didn't see too many Malamars, which Malamar lead, not a great lead matchup for this lineup. But I think even Shadow Annihilape does have play to that Pokemon. You just kind of stay in that lead, brute force your way through it, and hope that Lapras has play in the backline. But overall, very fun team. I definitely recommend it if you're trying for a last-minute end-of-season Legend push. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the battles and want to see more content like this on the channel in the future, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.